Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dr. Emmet Emery Sr. You Better Stand Your Watch Leaders and Leadership podcast. Today, I have a very special guest from the academia arena. He's an educator. He's a heavy influencer in the community, and we're going to get into some things. He's an educator in a very unique area. Kind of blew me away, and he's been doing it for years. It's Mr. Collis H. Ivery III. The third, my brother. That means you got, and it's a fourth out there too now. So wow, I'm working on that too. I'm gonna see if I can actually do that. You know, that's generations and generations that you got to work on. Okay, my brother, tell him about yourself. One more thing. He's LB of someone in my fraternity. You hear me say LB, it's Lion Brothers, and I like to say Lion Brothers a lot, but it's a Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. So tell me about yourself. Tell me all this about yourself.
All right. Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Emery, for having me here. My name is Collis H. III. I am currently a teacher in Hillsborough County Schools. I've been teaching for 21 years now.
Wow.
Prior to me teaching, I was in the military for 22 years in the Air Force.
Sorry about that. I was Navy.
Okay. And I decided to retire. And when I retired, I thought maybe I'll start teaching. And so I teach mathematics. I have a degree in electrical engineering. I have a degree in mathematics, and then I also have a master's degree in electrical engineering.
Wow.
So I decided after I finished the Air Force that I wanted to do something in the community, and so I started teaching high school, as a matter of fact.
Wow. See, a lot of people don't have that drive to want to give back in that fashion, especially coming from the military. Coming from the military, you're more in that demand and that authoritarian stage where you really don't want to put the kids.
Correct. Yeah, it was like that when I initially started teaching. It was kind of tough on me because as you say, coming from a military background, you have a more structured authoritarian background. But when you get into the school environment, it's a little bit different than that. And you have to kind of be a little more flexible with the youth these days. And I can tell over time, my last 21 years, that the behavior of the kids and the demeanor of the kids has changed over time. So
what do you mean they changed over time?
When I first started teaching, I started halfway through the school year. So I started in January. So I didn't have that the background that I needed to start at the beginning of the school year in August preparing.
Would that have made a difference?
I think it would have. I think in the sense that it would have given me a little more time to understand how the classroom environment is set up and things like that versus coming in the first day in January after a semester has already passed with a group of kids and then all of a sudden being kind of thrown into that situation and say, hey, these are your kids now. We want you to educate them. So it was kind of a tricky thing for me coming from a military background. I had retired 3 months prior to 3 months prior to me starting teaching. So it was, I had some expectation as to what the environment was going to be like. But as soon as I got into it, it was a little bit different than what I expected. I'm expecting kids to be a little more
disciplined.
Yes, disciplined, and they weren't like that at all. And so it took me some adjustment. There was a mentor that I latched onto when I first started teaching that had been teaching for about 25, 30 years. So it was good for me to latch onto him to understand some of the nuances of what teaching was all about. And so it took me some time to get, where I thought I should be as a teacher. So
how much time did it take you to adjust to that different environment versus the military environment? Because military, you can tell someone what to do and you hold them accountable for UCMJ.
Correct.
Kids, you tell what to do, they act like they don't hear you.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, it probably took me a quarter. Because I had a semester before the end of the school year. So it took me about 9 weeks before I could really adjust, understanding what the classroom environment was about, understanding how the kids behaved, if they had discipline issues. And there was a lot of things going on in the school that I was in. So it just took me some adjustment to be able to handle that situation. But about a quarter.
That was fast paced. That was fast paced.
Yes.
Florida's school system is the fourth largest school system in the nation. Florida's 67 public school districts are comprised of more than 4,000 public schools, including public charter schools that enroll almost 3 million students annually. Now, what method of study do you recommend to potential new teachers preparation to take the Florida Teacher Certification Exam? Not as they're starting their first day, how do they prepare themselves to take the exam?
There's several ways that a new teacher can start out. I mean, a lot of teachers have said that Florida exam is a little more difficult than what it was, when I took it 20 years ago.
In what way?
They say it's a little more challenging. The knowledge base that's required from new teachers is a little different. So I really haven't seen the test, the current test. So I'm going to base my response off of what it was when I actually took the test a little over 21 years ago. So my preparation was, I'm coming into the school system, and you have to take what's called a content area exam based on your the area that you're going to be teaching, and then you had to take a general knowledge exam, which is kind of a broad-based structure of, English, reading, other things, the education environment, that kind of thing that you had to understand and respond to. Right. So for me, it was more of studying for that general knowledge exam versus the content area, because I knew the content area. Having a background in math, I knew it wasn't going to be difficult for me to do the content base. So I really didn't focus on that area, because my understanding was I got the study guide for it, and I kind of looked through that and I thought, I don't really need to spend my effort on this because I know the content here. Mm-hmm. Let me go back and look at what the general knowledge exam is in the education area, because I didn't have that background. I'm coming from a military background. And my degrees were not in education-specific degrees. They were, content-specific degrees. So I had to focus a little bit more on the education aspect of those exams. But if teachers can get those study guides or go to professional development that Hillsborough County offers, I think that would be the best thing for them at this point. If the structure of those exams is similar to what it was when I took it.
Okay, good. He mentioned Hillsborough County audience. Hillsborough County is a county in Florida around the Tampa area that he teaches in. So you hear him say Hillsborough County, you hear me say Hillsborough County, and that's what we mean by Hillsborough County. Please explain Florida assessment student thinking. They call it FAST. FAST touches very different aspects in the educational part of the arena. But I want you to talk about the area of interest that you in, the mathematics area.
Yes. Several years ago, the governor decided to, and the legislature signed a new FAST, the Florida Assessment of Student Thinking. It used to be called Florida Standards Assessment, FSA. So now the Florida Assessment of Student Thinking, the FAST in mathematics, is kind of divided up into several different areas, 3rd grade through the 10th grade. There's an ELA, which is English Language Arts, and then there's the mathematics part. So students that are in the 3rd through the 10th grade are now required to take these progress monitoring exams as they go through the school year. So they'll do a progress monitoring exam in preparation for the end of course exams that are given at the end of the school year.
What do you mean by progress monitoring?
Progress monitoring is, let's say, for example, when the school year starts in August, the kids are given an initial assessment to find out where they are on the scale of whatever the course that they're in. Okay. Whether it's Algebra 1, Geometry. So they measure the proficiency of that student when you first get into the new school year. So they'll do it in the August time frame. They'll do it again right at the semester, December, January time frame, and they'll do it again at the end of the school year, just to see how proficient the kids have become over that school year and how much learning that they've accomplished in that amount of time. So they'll have 3 progress monitoring assessments during that one school year, for those kids that are in those end of course exams. So
progress monitoring is considered to be PM?
PM, correct.
So in 2022 and 2023, PM1 results compared to 2022 and 23 PM3 results, that's PM1 through PM3, results in Hillsborough County was PM1 equal 12%, PM2 equal 32%, and PM3 was 54%. Please explain the reasoning for the increase in percentages.
Well, see, that's why they do it. They give it to you at the beginning of the school year to get a baseline, to find out what knowledge you have at that particular time. So as you progress through the school year, those numbers should increase.
Makes sense. Okay. Right, makes sense. BEST, BEST, Standards for Mathematics, based upon an Executive Order 1932, on January 31, 2019. That's why we got COVID, because of that order. It is developed with input from thousands of Floridians and countless hours of work from dedicated Floridian educational leaders and mathematic teachers like yourself. Please explain Florida's benchmark for excellent student thinking, which is referred to as BEST. Algebra 1, inner course, you said inner course, and everything with an issue, which is EOC assessments.
The best standards, the excellent student teaching, these are a set of standards that teachers in particular courses, even though they might be in Algebra 1 or Geometry, all the curriculums or the courses that are taught in Hillsborough County have standards that should be met by the students. So what happens is, as an educator begins to teach during the school year, they look at these standards depending on the topic that the students are in at a particular time. So if, let's say, for example, if you're starting a year and you're an Algebra 1 student and you're going through some solving equations, there's standards that have to be met, that kids have to understand. At the end of this 2-week period, 1-week period, I should be able to do this particular assignment, or I should be able to understand this particular lesson. So as you go through the school year, these standards that are created, you're just monitoring what the kids are doing and how they're doing over the school year, so that by the end of the school year, you have this end of course exam, and all of those standards that the kids are required to meet, reviewed those standards throughout the school year as teachers are going through their curriculum and trying to meet those educational standards.
I hear often the phrase, the kids should understand. How and what method is used to get the kids to understand, or to stay focused to understand?
Depending on how your lesson planning is on a day-to-day basis, we're required to identify what the particular standard is that we're trying to meet for that particular lesson.
How do you identify that?
We lay that out on our boards in the classroom.
Oh, okay.
So we identify, depending on the lesson that you're teaching, we identify what the standard is for that particular lesson, what requirement or what the kids should be learning at the end of that lesson. And so you structure your lesson planning based off of that. You structure your assessments based off of that. And at the end of that particular lesson, whether it's a day lesson, 2-day lesson, a week-long lesson, then you look at your what you've taught the kids, what the kids have learned, and then when you assess them, then you can determine whether or not that they've met those standards that you're requiring them to know before the end of the school year.
Okay, you mentioned the word assessment several times. Do you have your own measuring level based upon your own measuring level compared to the measuring level that the school wants, or that the district wants?
It's a little bit of both. You're trying to create your internal in your classroom assessment level. I want my kids to be at this level by the time that I finish this course, not the course, but this particular topic. So when I get done with that topic and I assess whether it's a short assessment in class, or it's a slip that the kids fill out at the end of the lesson, have they learned what I taught them at that particular time? And then the county, the district-wide, there are assessment levels that students have to meet when they're done with that particular lesson. That's almost what the progress monitoring is for. Because when they start out, you have that baseline, but as they progress through the semester, through the quarter, are they meeting those standards and meeting those benchmarks as you're presenting those lessons to those students?
Now, that's a wonderful tool to use. Do you recommend that to the new teachers? And if so, why?
Well, it's almost required of new teachers to do that. When you're in your classrooms, like in our school, in our classrooms, we're required to put the standard that the student is being taught that particular day, and what their students are supposed to learn by the time the end of the lesson. So when somebody comes in your room and says, just walking around trying to understand what the kids are doing, are they being taught the material that's being presented to them on the board? Sometimes the kids don't even know that material is up on the board, but it helps the teacher stay focused and to understand, okay, for me to get my kids from this level to the next level and from this lesson to the next lesson, I expect my kids to at least keep track of, okay, here, this is where we're going on. This is where we're headed. This is what I need to learn at the end of the day. So that by the time the next lesson comes the next day, it's either a continuation of the lesson that you're currently doing, or you start a new lesson. But that helps the teacher kind of focus what their lesson plan is for the day.
All right, make them stay straight on that particular area.
Correct.
Makes sense. Best Algebra 1 EOC in Hillsborough County for grades 9 through 12 with 34% versus 89% for grades 8 and lower. Why was it so low as it went further up in grades?
It's really hard for me to answer that. There's a lot of different things that can affect that. Are the kids, how much are they learning?
Mm-hmm.
The kids aren't required in elementary. When you get into high school, it's a lot more material that students have to be required to remember. And a lot of students have difficulty remembering. As you said, COVID, we had a time where the kids were online.
Right.
But they really weren't doing what they were supposed to because no one was there. Their parents were there, but they were really kind of on their own. The high school kids were kind of on their own to monitor their own learning.
Really?
And if you're not paying attention to the teacher that's online, or you've got your camera off, or you're still in the bed at 10 o'clock in the afternoon or in the morning, are you really doing what you're supposed to for the teacher to get you to understand this material? So it starts off, I really don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try it. Some kids stay focused, some don't stay focused. Without having that teacher present in the classroom, it's very hard to get those students to stay focused on what they're required to learn. So that's probably why the drop-off or the increase was not as significant for high school students as it was for elementary school students.
But with COVID, everyone was at home, even the parents. So how much of a role did the parents did or did not play in those kids' development through online courses?
Yeah, but a lot of times, even with the, with younger kids, you stay focused on what they're doing at home, making sure that they're responsible for what they're supposed to do. As kids get older, sometimes the parents take a hands-off approach.
Yes.
The kids go in their room, turn on their computer, they have their headsets on. They're supposed to be doing their lessons, but right next to them, they've got a video game going. Their parents aren't just checking on them every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes. The kids know what they're supposed to do, but are they really doing it? The parents are at home, but they're not just on the high school student or middle school student as much as they would be an elementary school student.
It's true. And for the individual who's kept downplaying those parents or being bad or mean to those parents, saying it was their responsibility during COVID to make sure them kids got the information. It's supposed to be there step by step with the kids. The parents was at home working as well.
Correct.
So a lot of pressure was put on the parents at that time. And then when COVID was over, guess who the pressure went to? The teachers.
Back to the teachers, because now all these kids have come back into the school system.
Yes.
But did they really learn let's say if they were ninth graders, did they really learn what they were supposed to in the ninth grade now that they're in the 10th grade? Mm-hmm. There's a different math course. Yes, they passed that course because they were a little more lenient on what was required of the students while they're at home.
Right, at home.
With COVID. Mm-hmm. Now they come back into the school system and the teachers demand a little bit more out of these students to make sure that they understand, okay, you're now in the 10th grade, you're in this course now. In order for you to graduate, you've got to meet these requirements, you've got to meet these benchmarks, but are you prepared to meet these benchmarks? The kids, they haven't taken the time that they should have taken while they were at home, and now they're struggling once they're back in the school.
And how much pressure is that on the teachers, what on the teachers to get them to state standards, basically the lack of days of time they had for COVID? Now, no one's talked about that, how much pressure the teacher had to go on to get those kids back up to a standard.
There was a lot of pressure, and there's still a lot of pressure on the teachers now to try to get those kids up to where they were.
They're still not there?
I still don't believe that they're there.
Wow.
I mean, I still have students that, were in the COVID environment, but they've advanced to the course that I teach now, and I can tell that they don't have the background or the fundamental knowledge that they should have had or should have gained by being online. Were they really doing what they were supposed to? I don't think my students have really done what they were supposed to individually to keep themselves on pace. Now, you have students who, they have their plan. The college kids, they know they're going to this college.
Right.
So they're going to put in the effort that needs to be done
for that particular area.
But you have the average student. There's a lot of us who are just average students.
Right.
But do we have the fortitude to do what we're supposed to when we're by ourselves in an environment that's a little more relaxed? Nobody's on you every 5 seconds to say, do this, do that. Are you going to spend the time and the effort to do what you're supposed to get through that lesson in order to be prepared when you go back to school?
Exactly. I talked about mental health often. And a part of mental health that a lot of people don't look at that relates to the kids, and I did a lot, I don't know if you did a lot, was daydream. So you sitting there and you trying to study, all of a sudden your mind drifts somewhere else.
Yes, and you're not thinking about school. You're thinking about something else.
Exactly.
And those thoughts can be in anything. So mental health is definitely an issue, and we've seen that from the COVID environment. You know,
Yes.
there's lots going on. Some of these kids have had struggles during COVID. They've either lost parents or grandparents or
Yes.
siblings or whatever. And so that has some effect on what they bring into the school environment and their learning process.
So it maybe it's just me, but I kind of felt that the higher up in the educational field, let's say state capitol, wasn't focused so much on the kids as it was focused upon policies. Because they came out and said, let's have a Florida civic literacy exam. We haven't, from what I gather from you, haven't caught up from some of the things from the past that need to be at a certain level. Florida is the 4th largest for education, but it's not the highest. Mm-hmm. For example, my son came down from Chicago. When he came down from Chicago to Florida schools, when he started his classes, he already knew of all the stuff that it was teaching. That means that it wasn't up to standard at that time. But now you got more of the population coming down to Florida. So why would you add more to it than anything? Can you please explain the Florida Civic Literacy Exam? What sort of impact does it have on you as a math teacher? Does it mean you have to start taking economics now?
I mean, the kids in high school are already required to take economics at some point during their high school career.
Really?
In their government classes. The civics exam doesn't really have an impact on me as a math teacher because that's more into the government social studies area. So they're trying to learn, you know, how the U.S. government is structured, how the Constitution was written, what's in the Constitution, how it's applied, founding documents for the United States. So those things are more geared into the social studies government arena.
But didn't we do that when we was young?
Yes.
I remember looking at Schoolhouse Rock. I learned the preamble to the Constitutions. Conjunction, junction, what's your function? I learned all that stuff.
Right.
By some of the things that was on TV. I don't see that on TV anymore. But we're requiring the students to learn that. Maybe if I had kids in school, I understand it.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand why we need to learn that if it's not on TV like it used to be, so that kids can understand how the government is structured, how the government operates. Because you can ask people now how that works, and some have no clue. So it's good to have, you know, the civics part of that entwined in the lessons, in the government lessons that we have today.
I agree. And I recommend other states put it in their curriculum as well. Now, I guess Florida's committed to preparing the students to become civically engaged. The topics include foundation of government, law, the American political system, civic and political participation, structure and function of government, such as the role and responsibility of federal, state, and local governments, function of the legislature, executive, and judicial branches of government, and the meaning and significance of historical documents, such as the Articles of Confederation, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution of the United States. That means the kids be able to hold Congress accountable for some of the crazy stuff they're doing right now.
Yes.
How do you stay informed about current trends in research and education, and how does this knowledge influence your decision making?
One of the ways that it's just to stay informed is through our professional development that's offered in Hillsborough County. The school district offers professional development opportunities in your content area and outside of your content area.
Consistent of what?
You know, courses, short courses. Mm-hmm. We can go to a 3-hour training session. Some things are online, so teachers can stay proficient, you know, in that manner. We have periodicals that we can read. If you're a member of the Florida Educational Association or the National Education Association, you get periodicals in the mail, so that material can, you know, you can take time to read through those that material just to help you keep abreast of new things that are, or new ideas that are coming out in the education area. But the professional development that the Hillsborough County's public school system, the district offers, that's sufficient. You know, for most teachers, if they just sign up, take them on the weekend, do an online course, go to an online session after school's out, 3 hours, and you get that professional development that's really beneficial to you.
So you recommend at what point of the career, say you started off and you 3 years into your profession, at what point do you recommend that you stay abreast on the current issues?
Every year. I think you need to stay abreast because things change over time. Just like our standards have changed, the school environment has changed. Every time we get it, legislatures change, so they change what happens in education. So it's kind of an ongoing thing where you need to stay abreast on a regular basis by attending those professional development sessions.
You consider yourself a servant leader?
Yes, very much so.
What is your role in being a servant leader at school, in your profession, versus the community?
In school, it's kind of making sure that you understand what the kids' needs are.
Okay.
So that if you see a kid that's struggling, that you need to make sure that you pull them along. So you're not just being okay, do this, do that. But if you see somebody struggling that you need to help along.
How you do that?
Same thing. You can normally tell in the classroom those kids that are falling behind and need assistance. So you can pull them aside. You can talk to them. You can call home.
Give me an example of some of the red flags.
Sleeping in class, absenteeism. Turning in work that's blank, or
they actually do that,
or barely done. Those are signs that show up early. In a classroom that a kid is already struggling when the school year starts.
Wow.
If you see that, then there's time for you to interject yourself into that situation and say, hey, I'm noticing that you're having a little trouble with this lesson or with this course. Is there something that we can do? Do we need to call home? Do we need to talk to your counselor? What is it that we can do to help you? So being a servant leader kind of falls along that line. In the community, you're doing the same thing. You're trying to find out where there are needs in the community that you can kind of insert yourself, especially if you have a background that will help whatever the need is of that particular person, group, or organization that you can.
Good point. And how do you go about doing that?
For me right now, it's really through my fraternity, we have within our organization, as much as we are out in the community, we know where the needs are and where there's deficiencies in our youth. With our youth program, we can see where the kids need help. Through our community service activities, same thing. We can see where there's shortages and people that are struggling so that we can kind of help out as best we can.
He's not only gave you all the information and his background on academics and education, but he also is the overseer, the pole mark of the Alumni chapter, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I consider it to be the best fraternity ever. I know I'm gonna get pushed back from other fraternity and sorority, but I could be biased to my answers, into my thinking. Tell me about the foundation. You started getting into the youth. Some individuals cannot separate the fraternities, sororities from college versus the fraternity, sorority for alumni. They think that everyone stays in college forever. Mentally, some do.
Right.
But it's a difference. And the difference from college to alumni is you engage more within the community. You started talking about the youth. Give more information on the foundations and some of the things that our fraternity.
Okay. One of the biggest differences is, there's this a group called the Divine Nine. So the Divine Nine is made up of 9 historically black college and fraternity Greek letter organizations, both fraternities and sororities. So with our organizations, what happens is a lot of our members enter the organization through an undergraduate chapter while they're on college campuses. So they enter or become members on college campuses. Well, once they graduate, we've set up, and all of them are like this, we've set up that there's alumni chapters that you can join in your community, and now you're servicing the community. You're no longer on campus, enjoying college life and doing whatever it is your fraternity or sorority is focused on. But once you matriculate and you become a member of a graduate chapter, then you're looking at what do we do now that we have all these educated individuals, both men and women, out in the community doing things. We want to make sure that we bring along those that come behind us, those young people who are lost or confused or not sure where they want to go. So that's what these fraternities and sororities are doing once they become alumni members, that we're out in the community more. We're doing community service projects. All of us have youth organizations. We're trying to get them scholarships. We're trying to mentor them. We're trying to teach them how to be adults, how to stay out of trouble, how to do things in society that will make them become better individuals. So that's kind of what we do as an alumni organization, is we try to tackle those issues that a lot of people think, let that kid go.
Right.
But we've got to try to save as many kids as we can.
Yes.
So the alumni organizations basically take care of that in their responsibility. Now, the undergraduates also do that. They have the same structure that we do as an alumni chapter, but they're closer in age to those younger people.
Right.
But they don't have the resources that an alumni chapter might have in order to do that.
Now, you mentioned the Divine Nine. Not every fraternity or sorority from undergraduate stays active after undergraduate. Can you go into more detail with that?
Yes. You have to understand that when an individual graduates from college, they are trying to start their career, start their life, get married. So it's kind of difficult for them to matriculate from graduating from college and now joining an alumni organization. It's not that they can't do that. Sometimes it takes them a while before they can do that, because they want to make sure that they have their finances in order. They want to make sure that they have their career path set.
Yes.
And so as they're doing that, they can still participate with the organization, but they may not have joined the organization because of finances, or their location where they are doesn't have an alumni chapter. The alumni chapters are typically, with cities. So if there's not one in the city that they're in, it's kind of difficult for them to do that. So a lot of them are still trying to build their career path. And once they feel they have their career path set, then they will join an alumni organization and then get actively involved again financially and get out there and do those community services things.
Yes.
That we're built for. If
someone wanted to know more about the alumni chapter, how can they find out?
We have a website, the Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, the Tampa Alumni Chapter. We have our local website.
Is my picture on there?
No, I don't, it might be on there. It might be from the last line. I think the last line's picture is on there.
Okay, good.
But
good.
They can go to our website. I think it's tampakappas.org or something like that. I don't know exactly what it is.
At the end of this podcast, we'll have it put up so you can actually get to the website.
Yeah, go to that website. And then they can read about what we do in the community.
Yes.
They can understand, if they were interested, if male and they're interested in joining the organization, they can find out how to go about doing that. But that information of what we're doing in the community is all spelled out there. We also have a foundation, Tampa Alumni Guide-Right Foundation, that's more geared toward helping out the youth in the community, giving scholarships, providing college trips. So that's part of our organization too. That's our philanthropic part of the fraternity.
What age group do you see focus more on?
12 to 18. That's pretty much the age group that we focus in our Kappa, what's called our Kappa League program.
Yes.
Is 12 to 18.
Why is that?
Because that's where you can kind of target the kids more. They're in the process of starting middle school, going to high school, and moving on to college. And so we're trying to help those kids understand what it takes in order to get from point A to point B, to graduate, to become a law-abiding citizen and doing something wonderful for yourself.
Don't be under misconception that the fraternity only deals with youth foundations and youth organizations and things of that nature. What do we hand out in neighborhoods in December?
Turkeys. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a big turkey drive, Christmas drive. We gave out toys, we gave out turkeys. We did this in partnership with Metropolitan Ministries, where they were giving out food baskets, and we joined up with them, passed out turkeys, Christmas toys, and we do that annually.
I had a good time.
Yes.
I had a very good time. Now, I had a couple of friends of mine who were trying to be nosy and find out what Tampa Alumni Chapter Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Corporation was. And they said they typed in on Google, but it came up with Kappa silhouettes of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporation. Can you explain what is the Kappa silhouettes? Who are
the Kappa silhouettes? Are the wives of the fraternity members. Not a girlfriend, but it has to be the spouse of an active Kappa member.
Say that again, not a what?
Not a girlfriend.
Okay, all right.
But the spouse of a Kappa member is called the Silhouette. They're an auxiliary organization to the fraternity. They have, their own officers. They're out in the community just like we are.
Really?
Yes, and they do things to help support the local alumni chapter. When we had our national meeting this past summer, the Silhouettes had their national meeting at the same time, and they were very instrumental in helping us put on that, what we call the conclave, our national convention, by being out in the community helping.
Explain the conclave, then come back to that.
Okay. Our conclave we have a conclave, which is our national meeting of all the undergraduates and alumni chapters every 2 years. And this past summer, we were fortunate enough to host the conclave here in Tampa. First time ever that a Divine Nine organization was able to host a conclave or national meeting in Tampa. So we hosted that. We had over 4,000 members, brothers registered for that conclave. 4,000. Second largest in the history of our fraternity.
Wow.
But the Silhouettes were part of that. They're an auxiliary group to us, but they were part of that. They had their national meeting here. They put on events. They gave out funds for local activities. So it's a very big thing for us every 2 years where we get together and have this national meeting. So
And everything is voluntary, isn't it?
everything, all this is voluntary. Nobody gets
Wow.
paid for any of the work that they do, except for if you're in the national headquarters and that is your specific job. You're hired to do that. But everyone else it's all volunteer.
Now, I mentioned the Silhouettes because a lot of the old school brothers think that it's still Kappa sweethearts out there. It's a difference between a sweetheart and a Silhouette.
Yes, we no longer have sweethearts. It became an issue, a concern, several years ago, a long time ago. It's best to say that we no longer have what we call Kappa sweethearts.
Yes.
So, but the Silhouettes are our auxiliary organization that we support, highly support.
Good. Now, please give me a few minutes and talk about your fraternities. You have an event coming up.
Yes.
Founders Day.
113 years ago, this coming Friday, we will have been an organization for 113 years. 113 years we will be been in existence. So
113. You hear that, Q's? 113 years.
So our 10 founders, when they founded this organization in 1911, with the objectives that we have, with our fundamental purpose of achievement, we will be celebrating our 113th Founders Day this coming Friday.
Yes.
And it's a time for members and the brothers to kind of reflect on the 113 years, to kind of rededicate themselves to the organization.
Yes.
And find out where they can fit in to help out. If they haven't been active in quite some time, it's a good opportunity for those brothers to come back, re-engage with
Yes.
re-engage with the local chapter, re-engage with the national organization, to kind of say, okay, I've been away for too long. I'm ready to come back and help out wherever I can in the community.
Yes.
To do what I can to help this organization move forward. And we're all about achievement. It's all about achievement.
That's a good point. That's a good encouragement method too, because sometimes you stay away from things for a while and you a little hesitant about coming back, and you don't know what type of embracing you're going to get when you get back. So
we do whatever we can to help out those brothers who haven't been involved or engaged in the fraternity in quite some time. We try to reclaim them and try to make them understand, what was your purpose? What was your reason for initially joining this organization? Do you still have that drive? Do you still have that ambition to move the organization forward? And if you do, then we'll more than welcome you with open arms to say, come on back. We have lots of things that we're doing in the community. We have things that you can find your own niche to help support the organization.
Yes.
Time, talent, and treasures. Whatever it can be, we'll welcome you with open arms. So that's kind of what Founders Day is for, is to kind of regenerate those brothers who, I don't want to say lost, it's just that they haven't been active because of, life.
various reasons.
Life goes on, and sometimes they get away from the organization.
Yes.
But if they come to a Founders Day event, they can see why they initially joined the organization, and it's an opportunity for us to have them come back.
You said Founders Day event. What sort of activities do you have? The Tampa have.
We're going to have a program on Friday. Forgot the location.
What's the date?
January 5th.
Okay,
our founding date, January 5th. So it'll be on that date, and we're just going to have a program where, we go through and introduce some of the members who are 50-year members, some of our members who have passed over the last year. So we'll have some events like that. We'll have some refreshments, just kind of a program to say, okay, this is what the fraternity is all about, to kind of remind brothers, okay, this is why you join. We're still here. We're still doing the same things in the community, and come on back.
Is anyone beside brotherhood welcome?
No, this is a brother-only event. So if you can only attend the event if you're a member of the alumni, not the alumni chapter, but if you're a member of the fraternity, then you can join. We've invited brothers from Lakeland, brothers from Sarasota, brothers from St. Pete. So in the surrounding areas, if they're not having a Founders Day event, they're more than welcome to come and celebrate with us.
It's a fellowship.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you for coming. Any last word from my audience?
No, thank you very much for having me here. I really enjoyed this, and the conversation was very enlightening, and I appreciate it.
Good. To my audience, on the way out, Happy New Year's to you. We had a good year last year as far as views. And I encourage you to continue to watch these episodes. Also, follow me. Don't just go and look. Click the button saying follow me. I can have many followers as I can. There's no stipulations on numbers that I can have for followers. I thank you. Until we meet again, God bless you, and goodbye.